Welcome to GlowJob, the beauty podcast that's more than skin deep. We call it a job because real beauty takes work. Oh my God, my skin is just like so acting up today. It's really annoying.
Girl, I know what you mean. It's like that time of the month. And I don't know about you, but for me, I never really break out. And I think partly because like I'm in my 30s, but every single time I get my period, I get like the same 2 to 3 very painful, large kind of like hormonal acne along the jawline.
Ooh, yeah. Key spots for hormonal acne.
You know, I don't know if there's anything I can do about it. Like I've definitely looked at like different products or supplements to take. And honestly, for me, nothing works.
You know, I have the same thing. So I get the same in the past, I would say the past year or two, the same 2 spots on my chin, which also can be hormonal. And it's like, I don't know about you, but usually around ovulation period or like right after ovulation is when it'll happen. Like I'll have the breakout. And then by the time I'm done with my cycle, it starts to alleviate and disappear. And so then I have like a week or so of,
Perfect skin.
I'm
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, look at me, I'm so gorgeous. And then boom, like clockwork, it comes right back and it's the same 2 spots. It jumps from like here to here, here to here.
Same. And for me, it's never like far back on the jaw. It's always just kind of like closer to the mouth area. Like literally I have like, they're mirrored, one from the last period and one from this period.
Mhm.
And for me, it's like, since there's like really big kind of like painful ones, I feel like they take longer to go away.
Ugh.
You know what I mean? But what do you do whenever you get a breakout? What's like your go-to remedy?
Yeah. Okay. So I do 2 things. I use
Toothpaste?
no. Oh God. No. Never. Please don't ever use toothpaste. No, I use adapalene. So that's the
okay.
OTC version of like tretinoin.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was cleared to be OTC like a couple years ago, and it's specifically used for acne treatment. Like that's what it's cleared for.
Do you use Differin?
Yes, that's what I have.
Okay.
So Differin, the active in Differin is adapalene. Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I use that as a spot treatment, and then as it's healing, I will use zinc oxide that I love. That
Okay.
I talk about all the time.
Of course. Yeah. Okay. So for me, I don't know. So TMI, but like we've been trying to conceive for a little bit. So I'm not using any retinols whatsoever, like just basically kind of treating my body like I'm pregnant. And so I'm also not using salicylic acid. And because those are like 2 kind of no-nos on the list. I think salicylic acid is kind of like more up in the air these days, but I've been using a BHA AHA solution from CosRx, and it's like, okay. Like it really is kind of supposed to help a little bit more, which is like the congestion in the area. I don't think it's doing anything to like really treat the zit itself. But then afterwards, like I will use a pimple patch. But for me, I have such a love-hate relationship with those things because I truly feel like it sucks too much out and leaves a little bit of a wound behind when I remove the sticker, which does make sense. So then like the hyperpigmentation issue, like the PIH is so real. And so you have to be like extra careful afterwards, basically.
Yeah, I get what you mean by the pimple stickers. I don't really love them, to be honest. Also, have you considered using an azelaic acid?
I do use azelaic acid. So like afterwards, I'll either use a Paula's Choice azelaic acid or this really gorgeous like London-based indie brand called Saatchi Skin. They make a nice like they call it their tri-alpha pigmentation corrector, and it has kojic acid and a lot of like really excellent ingredients for hyperpigmentation. So I've been liking that one a lot.
It's so hard. Honestly, I've been using more tranexamic acid lately just to deal with hyperpigmentation because like you said before, one spot will heal and I'm like, okay, yay. And the other one flares up and I'm like, but you can still see the redness on this one and it's annoying. And I found the tranexamic acid to work fairly well. It just takes a long ass time because nothing's, overnight.
But like for me, it's like, I know that nothing is going to give you that like simple fix, especially when it comes to acne. Cause like what I've learned over time is that there's literally nothing you can do. Like there are maybe some quick fixes if you're experiencing acne, like switch out your pillowcases or like stop touching your face so much. Like, yes, those will make a difference. But like, when it comes to hormonal things, there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can eat, not enough water you can drink, nothing you can do to fix it. Mother Nature's a bitch.
Okay, so you know what? Today, you guys, we're going to be talking about something really fun. We're going to be talking about medical tourism, specifically cosmetic procedures. And we're going to be focusing on the beauty and skincare treatments that people will get abroad.
I love this. I love like a spicy, controversial topic because I know that cosmetic surgery is really controversial, even though I'm very pro it in general. But the whole idea of traveling abroad, I mean, I think it's a super hot topic these days because it's literally all over social media. Like, regardless of what app you're on, people are literally going on these like quote unquote transformation vacations where it's kind of like a mix, like this like weird hybrid of like a travel blog and like a surgery vlog. You know what I mean?
2 in 1, baby.
I know, but they are kind of fun to watch.
Yeah. Have you seen a lot of them recently?
I do. And I think for me, like some of my favorite like cosmetic surgery videos that I like is watching the healing process of like, let's say a nose job, right? Like day 1 post-op, day 2 post-op, like those kinds of things. Because it's just amazing how much things can change with surgery and what a big difference it can make.
Yeah. Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
So, let's talk a little bit about the most common procedures that prompt medical tourism. And when we're talking about this, it's also, I should caveat, not just here in the US, but we're talking about this abroad. And we're talking about medical procedures first. So this includes, dental care, general surgery, cosmetic surgery, which will be the bulk of what we talk about today, fertility treatments, organ and tissue transplants, and even cancer treatment.
Yeah, and it's really wild. Like, obviously, it makes sense that people travel abroad. Like, I know people that, especially in places like the United States, where you will get the top of the line cancer treatment, period, right? So people will travel from all over the world to come to the United States. That is nothing new. But, as of 2023, which seems like not that long ago, like 2 years ago, like cosmetic surgery is accounting for about 25% of all medical tourism. So this is just an industry that is growing and is growing really, really rapidly.
Wow, that's like it's a quarter. Wow.
Yeah. So like 1 in 4 people that's hopping on a plane, it's for a boob job.
Yeah.
Let's say.
And so, another crazy stat that we found is that the global medical tourism market in 2019 was valued at about 28 billion. So 28 billion in 2019. It's projected to grow at a rate of about 19% annually. So that means that by 2026, we can anticipate this to be a $165 billion market.
That is insane. I mean, but I'm honestly like not super surprised because like when you think of like how large, not just like the cosmetic industry is growing, but like, whether it's like surgery or even things like fillers and Botox, like it's not stopping anytime soon with how popular it's getting. Okay, so let's just kind of break it down and go over which countries are the most common places to go and get procedures. So the first one that comes to my mind, and it's because I'm Korean, but it's South Korea. And I think these guys really do kind of lead the charge, not just with innovation, not just for like skincare ingredients and products, but like literally the types of surgeries that they're offering. They are definitely like leading the charge there. But also, I think when it comes to people traveling, there's like so many people, like Asian people that are traveling to South Korea because they literally have, kind of the beauty, they are setting the beauty standard of East Asian beauty. So people are traveling to Korea for sure.
If I wanted to get work done, it makes sense. You want to go somewhere that understands your physical anatomy and like what the beauty standard would look like for you.
For sure. Because I mean, like, of course you can think like, oh, what does the perfect nose look like? But if you are like, I'm Korean, like if I were to go and get like a white girl nose, like I don't think that would suit me.
Like a super high bridge and you'd be like, whoa, it's
or
not
like,
matching.
like the bunny ski tip or whatever they're looking at, like those just like will not suit my face. Mm-hmm. So I would want to go to like a Korean doctor because they just know, like, think about how many noses they look at.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Also, there is Turkey, which is a huge hub for hair transplants and rhinoplasties and even veneers, which I find to be one of the craziest things to me, but we'll get into that more.
I know. So, I mean, veneers definitely crack me up, but I actually traveled to Turkey a couple summers ago and it was so funny. So I really didn't notice it on like my flight out. I was flying from San Francisco to Istanbul, but on the way back, like throughout the entire airport, there were so many men that had just clearly gotten hair transplants.
Oh my gosh.
And there's like the telltale signs, like the top of the forehead is kind of like beet red and it has those like distinctive black dots.
Yep.
Yes, from where like, or like, the shaved donor area in the back. But yeah, there is, I think there's like 4, 5, 6 people on my flight home that had just gotten it done. But you know what? There is a reason why they call it Turkish hairline.
That's cute. I like that.
Another country that comes to mind is definitely Brazil.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the B in BBL stands for Brazil. So I think that country is just cranking them out. I don't know if they are as popular as they used to be a few years ago.
BBLs? Yeah. I mean, did you know that BBLs are considered the deadliest cosmetic surgery because there are so many blood vessels in your butt? Like, if that surgery goes wrong, you die. Like, truly.
And it's a major surgery. Like, it's not, because it's kind of like multiple surgeries in one. It's not just liposuction, right? Yeah. So it's like liposuction and then fat grafting right afterwards. And really, I mean, it's definitely a major overhaul on the body.
And the most common place that, in fact, Americans go to for procedures, cosmetic and otherwise, is our friendly neighbor, Mexico.
Okay.
Yeah. Did you know that this is actually the second most popular destination for medical tourism globally?
Wow.
Yeah. Yep.
Mexico
is.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I would not have guessed that, but okay.
It kind of makes sense to me.
I mean, it is close by, and it is, I'm assuming, cheaper.
100%.
We'll get into that, but yeah.
Yeah. And so they say that it's estimated between 1.5 million to 3 million people come into the country every year to take advantage of, their inexpensive treatments. And on average, Americans can save 40 to 60% on most major procedures in Mexico. So you get a big savings discount.
Okay. And I mean, I think one thing I have heard of that is really common in Mexico, because I've been to Cabo a bunch of times, is people buying prescription medication.
Oh, yeah.
So that's not like the bulk of what we're talking about, but it's like in line, like in the medical fields. But, I think what people would assume when it comes to buying medication in Mexico, that people are buying things like Adderall, Ritalin, painkillers, like things that they can like use and abuse for partying. But in reality, some of the most common things purchased are inhalers, EpiPens, and diabetes medication, not Ozempic, though it is popular. And you literally, like, when you walk around Mexico, you'll see all of these signs like advertising like Ozempic and Cialis and things like that. But a lot of people are just buying like the medications that they need on a daily basis to survive.
Yeah. I mean, EpiPens are expensive.
They're really expensive. I think like a couple $100 per EpiPen.
Yeah. And those things expire quickly. I used to have a couple because I had an allergic reaction episode and I had to just have some on me. They expired way too quickly. I was like, how am I supposed to keep up with this? So I can only imagine if you really need them.
Right. So like, what would you do? Do you just throw them away after they expire?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's crazy. Yeah. But so I know that like, the cost of like medical insurance, like people do pop over to buy it. Like literally when you go to the airport in Cabo, there is a pharmacy in the airport so people can buy medication. But, one thing I can say about all of the pharmaceuticals being sold is that like, I truly believe that they are as good as the ones in the United States. Like people are just simply buying the generic versions, and generic versions are available globally. You know what I mean?
Of course. And what's interesting is that the Mexican government's been making a lot of strides in trying to make sure their accreditations are the same as in the United States. So we actually learned that, about 10 years ago, the Mexican federal government licensed the Joint Commission accreditation standards so that they could have the same accreditation as U.S. hospitals.
I mean, that's super important. Like that's, I would assume that America has like the gold standard of most, like I'm sure countries, like certain countries in Europe, like Switzerland, so you have like excellent, like healthcare services, but like, that's like the gold standard of what you want from your medical provider, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that makes sense.
It's pretty cool.
So let's bring it back to specifically cosmetic procedures, and let's just break down some costs.
Yeah. Okay. So we did a little research here and we looked up the top 10 cosmetic procedures globally, right? Okay. And we're going to focus on the top 3. And we did a little research in terms of the average cost of this procedure in the US versus the average cost of the procedure abroad. And we'll start with a boob job, the number one most popular cosmetic procedure, aka a breast augmentation. So in the US, the cost ranges on the lowest end at about $7,000 and on the high end at around $15,000. So this takes into account for, procedures that are being done in like New York and LA versus a market that will be a little bit less expensive, like let's say maybe like, I don't know, Cleveland or some other random city, right?
I don't know why this is, but how come every time someone wants to like kind of take a stab at like, or like, a jab at middle America, it's always Ohio.
Is it really?
I feel like it's all like, remember those memes where it's like, oh, like that girl who's like living that big New York life. Like, why is she always from like Columbus, Ohio? Like, you've seen those, right?
Not really, but I know a lot of people shitting on Ohio. I feel like that I haven't seen that meme specifically, but like I know what you mean. That is kind of a thing to shit on Ohio.
It's always Ohio.
Why? What's
I mean,
wrong with
there's
Ohio?
so many other states in between, but it's
I
always
know.
Ohio.
Wait, what's the armpit of America? Is that Ohio? You know how that's a saying? Did I make that up?
See, you are continuing the negative stereotypes.
I know. I'm so sorry, Ohio. I've never been. I'm sure you guys are lovely. You guys have a basketball team, right?
They do.
They do, yeah. Right, yeah. The Khloe Kardashian's ex-husband.
Yeah, the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Cavaliers.
Yeah, but the Browns is their football team.
They have a football team?
Go Sports.
Yay! I only know my New York Yankees. Anyway, so the average cost, like I was saying before, in the U.S. on the low end, $7,000 up to $15,000. Now let's talk about abroad, right? So the cheapest abroad is $3,000, and usually the highest end is going to cost you $6,000.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that is a 50 to 70% savings.
Okay. And, when it comes to these savings, there really are, it's interesting. There are certain countries that specialize more in certain procedures. So when it comes to the boob job, breast augmentation, the most common places are actually Mexico, Turkey, and this one surprised me, but Thailand.
Interesting. Thailand.
Yeah. And I was thinking about it a little bit, like why Thailand? When I was thinking about Thailand, like they are really well known for having a strong LGBTQIA plus community and really embracing the ladyboy culture. And that, big part of that is going to be a breast augmentation. So it does make sense.
That totally makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. And the next kind of most common surgery that people will opt for is a nose job or a rhinoplasty. I mean, I feel like growing up in LA, I think everybody wanted this, especially girls for like their 13th birthdays, 16th.
13th?
Yes. 16.
Oh my Lord.
I think they ask for it around the age 13 because I think that's about when girls get a little bit more self-aware about their appearances and self-conscious. And then people will get it at 16.
Okay. I'm all for having, you do you, boo. But like my thing is your face hasn't even fully developed yet at that age. Like, wait till you're at least 18, if not in your 20s, before you do that.
I know. Well, I mean, a lot of people would do it like right before they go to high school, or sorry, right before they go to college.
Okay.
And it's so they can, like start a new year with a new face and just really kind of leave that dark beak-nosed past behind them or whatever. But, I can't judge because I have a tiny, tiny nose. So
you don't have to worry about it. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's hard. Like if I were to be a parent and like if I had a child who wanted this, like I understand why parents say yes. Right. And I do believe that things, especially on your face, like a rhinoplasty, like that can really change your life,
I agree.
For the better.
No, I agree. You're right. I just felt like 13 was really young.
No, like they would ask for it at 13.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times, like, it's just all when girls start getting on like Instagram and social media and start comparing themselves. And I think a lot of times also it's like those Snapchat filters, Instagram filters, right? So they can like see what their faces would actually look like with a new nose.
Yeah. Although that's very deceiving because a filter does not equal plastic surgery.
And this is probably one of the most common procedures in America. The average cost in the United States, I think, starts at around $7,000 and can go all the way up to $20,000.
Hot damn.
Which is like more than a boob job, but I get it because it's your face. I would definitely spend more on my face for sure. But when you do go abroad, the price obviously drops quite a bit and really gets back down to that like $2,500, $6,000 range. So you're seeing savings again of like 50 to 80%.
Damn, 80%. And so the most popular countries for procedures like this abroad outside the US are Iran, Turkey, and South Korea.
Okay. I mean, those are not surprising to me. And like one thing that I've heard of is like when people go and they travel for these procedures, they will go to countries where that is the beauty standard, right? So like, let's say if you're like Persian living in America, traveling to Iran, where they know like the Iranian face, the Iranian features, Middle Eastern features, etc. It makes sense to go there.
Yeah.
And if you're Asian, you go to Korea, that kind of thing.
That
Maybe?
makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And the third most popular procedure, drum roll, is a facelift. Ooh and ah. So in the US, it ranges anywhere from $16,000 up to the high end of $100,000. So pretty expensive.
Is it really $100,000?
I mean, facelifts are really intensive surgeries. There's this one YouTuber who I love to watch, Dr. Gary Linkoff in New York City. He's like funny and cute. He basically is a plastic surgeon who reviews all these surgeries that celebrities do. And he breaks down like what it takes to do a facelift, and it's intensive.
Like piece by piece, like what goes behind it,
like where the incision is, how you pull, like how a ponytail facelift works. It's kind of gnarly.
Okay, so I guess like maybe then it does make sense for that cost, because it's probably more than what happens when you go and you do a nose job, right? Because like there's so many more blood vessels. Like
exactly.
I get it.
Yeah, more danger. And then abroad, it is much cheaper. $4,000 to $12,000. So again, you're saving between 50 to 85%.
That's crazy. And I think, again, we've already mentioned these countries, but the most common ones are going to be Thailand, Turkey, and Mexico for a facelift.
Wow.
And then just to kind of run you guys through like the rest of the things that we did research, but we were looking at tummy tucks, liposuction, BBL, eyelid surgery, which is really popular these days, the blepharoplasty, but a hair transplant, and Sauce's favorite thing to talk about, but veneers.
I do like talking about veneers.
The savings is still like 50 to 80% if you go abroad.
I mean, you can do a lot with that money.
For sure.
Yeah. So we're talking about all these procedures. Let's do a little exercise of girl mathing why we might want to do an abroad procedure.
Girl math is literally my favorite thing.
Okay, so let's do this on a boob job. So again, the average cost of a boob job abroad is about $4,500, okay? And let's say we're going to do this boob job in Turkey. And we're picking Turkey because, again, the top countries were Mexico, Turkey, Thailand. Mexico is very close to LA. Thailand's really far. Turkey is, right down the middle in between.
Yeah.
And if you look at a round trip flight from LAX to Istanbul, it costs at about $700. And, a lot of these places where you go for these procedures will typically include the transport from the airport to the facility, and will include accommodations for post-op. So that's already been wrapped in. And all in, you are spending $5,200 instead of, even on the low end of the US, $7,000.
And that's really crazy. Like, think about how much savings you get. The best nose job abroad is still going to be cheaper than the cheapest nose job in the States. Mm-hmm. But you're also, you still have a bit of pocket money to spend, right?
Almost $2,000 right there.
Yeah, you can go shopping, visit the Hagia Sophia, kind of do whatever you want with that money.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of get it. It's like, okay, let me go on vacation to Istanbul, travel abroad, get to see the sights, soak up the culture, eat some good food. And then at the end of my trip, I'm going to go get a boob job and come home.
That's great girl math, in my opinion.
That's ultimate girl math. So speaking of Turkey, I feel like I've been seeing a lot of people getting procedures like in Turkey, specifically for hair transplants. Have you noticed this?
Oh, 100 Turkish hairlines.
Yeah, I know.
I kid you not. Like, it's definitely the thing to do. But, it's really not just men. It's also women. And it's not just hairlines, right?
Yeah. It's things like, it's even veneers, which, I am obsessed with. I think for some reason, like if you guys have ever seen how veneers work,
it's terrifying.
It's terrifying. It's actually terrifying. They basically file down your actual teeth into these tiny little nubs that look like vampire nubs.
Not like vampires, but like baby vampires, because they're really tiny. So like, yes, they're like little and pointy, but like they're not that intimidating because they're so small.
But they look so scary to me.
It is terrifying, but like, I think that there are some pros to getting veneers, right? Like, I think the biggest one is like, if you have small teeth or just simply do not like the shape of your teeth, the only way to fix it is veneers. Like, you can straighten them, you can whiten them, but if you're so unhappy, you have to do veneers. And then also, like, if your teeth are foobar, you have to do veneers too.
Wait, what's foobar?
Bucked up beyond relief. Have you never heard of FUBAR?
I've never heard of FUBAR.
Oh my God. It's one of my
FUBU.
No, FUBAR. Like if your teeth are FUBAR,
you're screwed and you have to do veneers.
Yeah. And it's crazy. Like, did you know that when it comes to pricing out veneers, you actually get priced by the tooth?
Per tooth. That is wild.
I know, but I think I know this sounds silly, but when you think about like cost savings, right? Maybe you just don't need all your teeth. Maybe you just hate like these two right here.
Yeah. Just the front ones.
Just the front ones, right? Like, why are you going to get a veneer on one of your molars? Like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's so true. And like, speaking of which, of just like cost and things like this, did you know, I learned this recently, like with hair transplants, I don't think people realize this, but these are not a one and done procedure.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So you normally, like, once you get a hair transplant, you're good for, let's say, 5 to 10 years. And then you will see hairline receding again, which means you have to routinely get touch-ups. Like, imagine you get a hair transplant at 40. If you want that same kind of look, you're probably going to have to do at least 3 or 4 more of those in your lifetime to maintain that.
And I think people don't I think they just forget that. But it's the same with boob jobs. But back to like the whole hair transplant thing, there is this like, people are obsessed with LeBron James, obviously, but people are equally obsessed with his hairline because he has gotten multiple hair transplants over the years. And people are so mean about it. But like I don't think he gives a shit. Like, he does not care, right? Yeah. But like, they'll kind of track the position of his headband while he plays as it relates to his hairline because it kind of moves depending on his hair transplant schedule. But I think that also goes to show that just because you go and get a hair transplant surgery does not mean that the new donor hairs will take.
So true. And it's a very expensive procedure. So
it's expensive. And also, like, for me, because I also know women who have done this procedure. Because let's say like you're a woman and you want to change your hairline, you can actually go in and make edits and implant new hairs in certain places. Yeah. Like, I know people that do not like the shape of their forehead. They think it's too much of a 5 head. So they want it.
So you in all these terms, I'm learning so much.
No, they want to go from a 5 head to a 4 head. So they actually will go ahead and get a hair transplant surgery. But while it grows out, like, imagine being a guy is one thing because most men have short hair. Mm-hmm. But if you're a woman and you have this long hair and you're getting a hair transplant, growing this stuff out is going to be such a freaking pain.
Oh, you mean like kind of like the baby hair situation?
Yeah, because you're growing it from scratch. Yeah, and they're gonna be weird and wiry, and you just got to put up with it until it reaches an appropriate length to cut bangs. I don't know. My mom once gave me this tip and it always stuck with me. Yeah. And now I'm going to share it with all of you, but it's the best tip ever. If a girl tells you to cut your hair, she hates you. Wait, no, if she tells you to cut your hair, that means she hates you. She's like, oh my God, you'd look so good with micro bangs. Or, oh my God, you'd look so good with, a little bob. She hates you. She hates you and she is your nemesis and she wants to see you fail. Period. No, you've never heard of this?
I've never heard of this. I've had a bob before. I've cut my hair to like crazy. I've had super short hair. I've had super long hair.
Okay.
And I've never had a pixie cut though. And I don't think I'd ever want a pixie cut.
Yeah. I mean, I guess like my mom says this mostly because long hair, and whether you think it's more beautiful or not than short hair, I don't necessarily think that, but growing your hair long can be very, very difficult and maintaining it is very, very difficult. So having to like chop off all that work and start all over again is kind of like more what she's alluding to in this. Like, she's not saying that like, she's not saying a pixie cut looks bad, but I just think it's hilarious. And honestly, advice that I would pass on to my own daughter.
Yeah. And that's true. If a girl is trying to convince you to chop your hair off, you got to question, what's the motive here?
Yeah, like, are you my friend?
Yeah.
Do you hate me? Okay, so back to veneers, Sasa. Like, I get a sense that you are not a veneers girl. What's your deal with them? You just don't like them?
It's not that I don't like them. I think it's truly the idea that someone would file down my tooth. Like, I don't know if you've ever had something like hit your tooth and it just not feel good.
Yeah.
That sensation, it's like nails on a chalkboard. It scares me.
One thing I've heard of is people actually opting for veneers so they can kind of not have to take as good care of their teeth. Because you can't get a cavity.
Oh.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So it's super, like, problematic. Like, for me, like, and I'm sure you would agree, they always look like, I've never seen a pair of veneers and I'm like, oh, wow, that looks great.
Yeah, I have. Well, here's the thing. Maybe I have seen veneers that look great, but they're so great that I didn't realize they were veneers.
Twist.
Ooh, plot twist. But you are right. Most of the times I see them, I'm like, that is way too freaking straight to be
So it
teeth.
gives you a little bit of like uncanny valley.
Uncanny valley. What's that?
Okay. Uncanny valley, it's a term. It actually came from the tech world when it came to like people kind of looking at artificial images of something and something they look at the artificial image and they know what it should be, but it still just doesn't register in their head. So let's say if it's a computer generated woman or something, but she just looks a little like off, and it gives the viewer like a very unsettling feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what it does sometimes.
My biggest issue with them are two things. Like, it's not necessarily the size that people go for. Like, for me, like,
Wait, I mean size. Do they go for bigger teeth?
yeah, a lot of times people are going for bigger teeth.
Okay, that's so funny because as a child, my brother used to call me buck tooth like all the time because like two front teeth are kind of big. So the idea that anyone would want bigger teeth, it blows my mind.
Yeah, no, so they often go for like bigger teeth, like chiclets, like really, really big. And then they will often go for obviously teeth that are too white, right?
Oh, yeah.
But my biggest thing is when they are too opaque.
Oh, really?
Yes, because that to me looks the fakest. Like if you look at someone with natural teeth, there's a little bit of translucence to them, right? Like the light shines through, and on like in reality, the light shines through differently for different parts of your teeth, like where it's closer to the root or further away. And so when I don't see that opacity, I'm just like, you have veneers. Who has good veneers in your mind or bad veneers in your mind?
I don't think I want to put them on blast.
Gucci Man.
Gucci Man?
The rapper.
Oh, Gucci Mane.
Gucci Mane.
Gucci Mane. I love Gucci Mane. He is my fave.
I also love Gucci Mane.
Yeah.
But his veneers,
He has veneers?
Yes, let me get my phone.
Are you sure? I remember when he had grills. I don't remember.
He has grills, but he also definitely has veneers. Gucci Mane. Oh, I forgot to say teeth.
Whoa, his are so white.
Yeah, so it's like they're too white, they're too large, and they're too opaque.
Okay, so also I think like maybe I need to watch a video of this, even though it'll scare the bejesus out of me, because it looks very clear to me he has veneers almost on every single tooth there. So are they filing each?
Yeah, so they file down each tooth, and it's crazy. I've actually been with somebody, I would never say their name, but I was with them and we were eating and a veneer popped out. And so what's left behind is this tiny little like demon baby tooth, right? And like basically you just have to deal. You just have to deal with it until you can get in with your dentist.
Wait, so the thing popped off. Can you pop it back in? Or like do you need glue to pop it in? Like,
no, so they're kind of like cured, right? Just like a filling is cured. Yeah, so they need to be put in, like they can't just be popped back in. It's not a Lego piece.
Wouldn't that be nice?
That would actually be amazing.
Yeah.
But no, so it has to be like cured in a specific way. So like they have to go back to the dentist and get it properly popped in. Because also, if you are eating, you don't want to run the risk of popping it back in and trapping food in there.
Oh,
no, trapping the food, because the food will then rot the tiny little nub of a baby tooth you have left. And then you'll need like a dental implant or something afterwards.
I'm so scared of the nubs.
Yeah. The nub, it's just gonna haunt you.
Literally.
I kind of think they're funny.
Like the nubs or like just the veneers in general?
The nubs. Like I find them more funny, but I think Sasa finds them more scary.
I am like scared of them like a 2-year-old is scared of a scary clown. Like this is really scaring me.
Okay, I got it. I got it. Yeah.
I think it just reminds me of like a horror movie. Actually, this would make a great horror movie. It's like the Nub Man,
Yeah.
Yeah, like just a Hollywood film of successful producer who now is like, I don't know, is just nobody washed up and is angry at the world and his veneers have popped out and he's going to eat
Someone sign this girl immediately.
You can bring me on as executive producer. Or no, wait, executive producer means you have to add money, right?
I think it's like the PG something title.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm not in showbiz.
Yeah. Hire me.
Another one that like when I think of like cosmetic surgery, for me, it's like South Korea. It's just like top of mind. Like even when you go there and you just walk around, like people are just so unabashed about like the surgeries that they recently got. Like they wear their Band-Aids out. And on one hand, I think again, I'll say it again and again, people should do whatever they want, but I think it does a lot of bad to like the overall psyche of a country, right? And for me, one thing that I noticed, even in the States, but like people just get the same exact surgery and they end up all looking the same.
Yes, that is such an issue.
Especially in the States, in LA, I feel like there's like a Kardashianification of like people getting the exact, like they just want to look like Kim, who looks like Kylie, who looks like Courtney Kendall, whatever, you know? And so like they all end up looking identical. And that to me is so weird. So whenever I watch like Korean dramas or K-pop, like I have the hardest time following celebrities because I'm like, they all freaking look exactly the same. And I'm not saying this because they're all Korean and have black hair, but like they literally have the same face.
Yes. You know, we were talking about this. One of our favorite shows we watch, Pachinko, right?
Yes.
And how the creator of that, or the author of that book,
yes,
how she was having so much trouble struggling to cast that main character, that woman, because she was saying that all the actresses basically all looked the same, and they had like this pop star look, and she was trying to find a real looking woman.
Yeah, well, it's like a period piece in some way, right? So, you know, it was like taking place in like the 1930s and 40s in the beginning, or whenever that character started. But it was really important to her that she would do that. But I do hear that there are starting to be like trends of, unfortunately, it's coming from men wanting this, but like they are starting to prefer women without surgery because it's kind of like preserving the features for when they pass it on to their offspring, right? So like, you know, they would want they're looking for women with like no surgery because like that's what they're going to get in their children, right?
It's like purchasing transparency, I guess.
It's like a lot of things that like I hear in like Korean pop culture is like men, you know, they'll like sleep with the girl with the surgery but won't marry the girl with the surgery, if that makes sense.
Like they want to be able to be like, okay, baby looks like mom looks like baby, sort of a thing.
I don't like that idea because like I don't know, everyone gets surgery, everyone likes to change things about themselves. It's like part of being a human, like how you express yourself, right?
Yeah.
But like, so I don't like that it comes from men, but like I would like to see, I feel like a lot of people get surgery because everyone else is getting surgery.
You think so?
Oh, for sure. Because I think in a lot of ways it's also like a status thing, right? Like you can afford surgery, you're part of this like upper echelon of people that like really care about their appearance and, you know, can invest money into their appearance. And yeah, it's so problematic. I think Korea's going a little too far here.
I mean, I've seen the videos of, you know, you get off the plane, you go to these buildings or these centers for like, it's like a rejuvenation center, and it goes across the spectrum of like, could be like skin treatments to a plastic surgery center. Like every single floor will have a different plastic surgeon.
Yes.
It's wild.
Yes. And you just like, you walk in the building and then you just like kind of like a maze, you maze your way through and you just like come out looking like another person basically.
Yeah.
And it's crazy.
Yeah. That makes me think of this New York Post story that I saw once, and it was like these three girls. Have you've seen that before, right?
Yeah, you showed it to me.
Yeah, it's crazy. So these three girls from China, they went to South Korea to get some procedures done. And when they were trying to return home post-op, they were not allowed to board the plane because their faces looked so different and were so swollen post-procedure that their faces looked nothing like their passport photos. They were like detained and questioned, and they were not allowed to go onto the plane. It's crazy.
I mean, I saw the photos and like they literally did not look very human. Like I think they should have waited a little bit longer until the swelling goes, because like clearly they don't look anything like they still have the band-aids on their heads, right?
Yeah.
So I get like why you would want to rush home after something like that, but no, it's really wild. So like clearly cosmetic surgery is super popular. It's not going anywhere, but like the risks of traveling for surgery is definitely like really worth dissecting here. There were studies done in Britain that in the past 3 years, the number of hospitalizations after landing, you know, back home has skyrocketed by 94%. And the number one cause is actually sepsis. And you can die from that.
Yeah, you can certainly die from sepsis. It's organ failure.
Yeah, and it's really, really scary.
So scary. I mean, speaking of which, the British Association of Plastic Surgery, they also state that the general rule of thumb for, you know, post-op after a surgery before getting on a plane is 6 weeks. I don't think most people are following these rules. Like they're maybe at most waiting 1 week before they get on that plane after their cosmetic procedure.
Because clearly a lot of these hospitals that you'll go to abroad, they do offer post-op treatment where you can stay with a doctor, get nurse care, etc. But, you know, maybe it's not like, I don't think it's going to last for 6 weeks.
Yeah, and even if it does last for 6 weeks, like that's expensive for people. And the whole reason why you're going abroad is to save money. Like I feel like most people are not going to be choosing that option.
Probably not. No, definitely not. Like if you're going abroad to save money, you're not going to stay an extra 6 weeks.
Exactly. Yeah.
Other problems with traveling is like just like flying alone can be super, super dangerous, right? Like a lot of surgeons, they recommend that you should not take flights longer than 4 hours after you've gotten a surgery. And that's because you're in a very pressurized cabin and it makes you really at risk for blood clots because your body literally just went through something super traumatic.
I mean, speaking of planes, like have you ever seen the videos or pictures of people who have gotten a BBL and then they're sitting on the plane?
I think it's like the funniest thing ever, but yes, yes.
I also think it's the funniest thing ever, slash also the saddest thing ever. So in case you guys don't know what I'm talking about, basically when you're after you've gotten a BBL, a Brazilian butt lift, you cannot sit on your butt because you just got surgery on your butt.
Yeah, you're really supposed to be like super careful with the area, right?
Exactly.
Makes
Yeah.
sense.
Makes sense. And so what happens is these girls, like on takeoff, they will be sitting on their chair, and as soon as
And
they
buckled in.
and buckled in, yeah, like the whole shebang. And then as soon as they are, kind of like in steady flight, they will get out of their chair and they are kneeling on their knees, and then their heads are in the seat so that their butt is basically not touching anything. And oftentimes these girls will have these BBL pillows. So they have a pillow to hold on to so that they can lean in and just like basically not put any pressure on their butt.
So they'll do that, or they also have those like butt hemorrhoid pillows that you can buy.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Yeah, and so they'll like sit on those to like cushion it. But it's just like, if I'm about to pay for a BBL, I really want to protect my investment, right?
Mhm.
So like, I don't know if I'd get on a flight afterwards if it runs the risk of like flattening it or like misshaping
Yeah.
it because you're like injecting the fat, right? And the doctor is sculpting it in a very strategic way. And so I know we talked a little bit about like the dangers of like post-op, post-surgery flying, but like there have been instances, I don't know if it's like PC or not to say, but like instances of crime happening in these other countries when it comes to medical tourism. Like there have been instances of people getting kidnapped, all of these things. And it's really happening when people are kind of going to these like more shady hospitals
Mhm.
and surgeons' offices.
And like there's another thing, speaking of which, of like going to shady places or, a shady hospital. There's not always the same accreditations abroad. So I have seen instances of, let's say, a dentist who is doing BBL surgeries. Like, yes,
Oh
they're
my
a doctor,
God.
but like they should not be touching those areas of your body. Like it's
Why do they
crazy.
even have access to a liposuction machine?
Well, that's the thing. They don't, it's just like not as regulated.
That is honestly super terrifying. There's like the whole language barrier thing, like
Yes.
not being able to really communicate. Like, I honestly not get paranoid, but like, when other people are talking about you in a different
Oh, yeah.
language.
Yeah. I think one of the most heartbreaking risks, and unfortunately a reality that happens sometimes, is there is an organ black market out there. And there have been stories, like true reported stories, people who are going in for a cosmetic procedure abroad. And while they're under, will have organs taken out of them unbeknownst to them without their consent. Like there was this one story of the woman who was going for a boob job. She came back home with like intense pain, not knowing what happened. And she found out later that they took one of her kidneys.
Yeah, and I think kidneys are one of the more common organs that tend to get like harvested like because you can go without a kidney.
Yeah.
Right? Like you can survive,
We got two of them. So
yeah, exactly. You could survive for the rest of your life.
And, we're talking about all these things, the risks and everything that are associated with traveling abroad for cosmetic procedures, but that doesn't mean that we're anti this. I think, and if anything, what we're trying to say here is do your research.
Number one tip is just like vet the doctor and the place that you are going to. Read the reviews and read them with a grain of salt because when I look on Amazon and it has like 50,000 positive reviews, I know that like some of them are fake or farmed. So like, go with it with the same lens. And then also make sure that whatever hospital you're looking at has medical standards that are up to par. And there's actually an organization called the Joint Commission International. And that's kind of like the gold standard of what you should look for.
And then, other things you should be really considering while you're planning for these things. I mean, budgeting. I think this is a big one because you don't know what you don't know. And so let's say you go into surgery and then you might have an issue post-op and suddenly you have an unforeseen cost of having to stay for an extra week. You need to be able to factor in those kinds of unforeseen costs, right?
Yeah.
On travel, on accommodations, on aftercare. The other things really to be aware of are those too good to be true deals. I feel like I see this in my daily life too. Like you see something for a mega discount, you're like, whoa, that sounds amazing. But you dig a little deeper and you're like, oh, this is
Yeah.
a scam. And then, of course, always planning for a backup plan just in case there's complications. I mean, I'm the kind of girl who has a plan B, C, and a D, but I know not everyone is that anal retentive like that. So, I mean, I honestly just think if you're going to be abroad and you're in a place where it's not familiar, to always have a contingency plan.
Like if you got to run, you can't run
Yeah.
after you get surgery done, right? Like if you need to haul ass and get out of there, like, you cannot. You can hobble out of there, but
if you're lucky.
yeah, exactly. I think what really influences a lot of these trends is definitely social media. And I think it's not just social media promoting cosmetic tourism, but it's just like promoting cosmetic procedures in general, right? What's your take?
I mean, obviously, I feel like social media is creating this unrealistic standard for not just young girls, but grown ass adult women as well, right? Like a little bit of what you were saying before, and these are not new things, like the Kardashianification of beauty standards in the US. Everyone is expected in some way or shape or form to look a certain way. And whether we like to admit it or not, it's affecting all of us at a subconscious level.
Yeah, but for me, like, I think people are going to get surgery 100%, but it's the people that really kind of glamorize the surgery, if that makes sense. I do appreciate like the transparency and people showing that they get it, but like, the kind of like, come with me to Bali to get my boobs redone. It's a little bit different, if that makes sense.
Interesting. I think I feel differently about this because I'm like, the glamification of it doesn't seem, to me, does not seem as poisonous as the let's say the quote unquote celebrity who insists that they've never had anything done and all they do is drink water and use olive oil.
Oh, J-Lo.
Like, you know what I mean? It's like that that type where they will just incessantly say they've never done anything. I actually think that is much more toxic, the hiding it, because then you're perpetuating into people's minds that, like,
oh, for sure.
You know what I mean?
For sure. Yes, that's bad. But for me, it's just like people that think like, oh, it's like so easy, breezy, beautiful to go and get I keep bringing up boobs, but like a boob job. And I think I bring it up because like I know, plenty of girls who have had them and it is like not a fun experience.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't think like the videos that I saw, they don't show like that you're like bedridden and that you can feel sick and that you are in so much pain. But at the same time, just like how I said a nose job can change your life for the better, any plastic surgery can change your life for the better. So I would never,
or worse.
or oh my God. But like I would never tell someone not to do it.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, to each his own. It's your own body. You do you. I think, yeah, it's such a nuanced conversation. And to me, I ultimately think if you're doing a procedure for yourself, more power to you. If you are doing a procedure and if you're really going to be thoughtful with yourself and really dig down deep, are you doing this for you? Are you doing this for how people view you outside? Like, who is what is the motivation here?
Oh, totally. And like another thing is that I have noticed that plastic surgery is like addicting. Like every single person that I know who has done something has done it more than once to multiple parts of their bodies. Cause like it's kind of like, oh, I did it once, I can do it again. Like this little tweak here, this little tweak there. And it's not just like a huge financial burden, right? But also like the time lost recuperating and all of these things. And like when I see a person who's gotten like, multiple surgeries, like then I don't know if it's because there's a deeper issue underlying there.
Yeah. Speaking of multiple surgeries, do you remember this was like in the news a long time ago, or it was popular in pop culture a while ago? Remember the cat woman?
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of my really good friends, her mom used to be her personal assistant, and she would tell me these crazy, crazy stories. But stuff like that, it's so sad. Like, you know what her story is? Okay, so her husband, basically she was married to a very wealthy man, and her husband was not as interested in her anymore, or so the story goes. And she knew that he loved cats. He really liked cats and felines, and that was just like an interest of his. So in her mind, she thought that if she made herself look more like a cat, he might love her more again. And that kind of exactly spiraled into all those crazy surgeries that she got.
Right. So it's kind of more of like a mental health issue versus like I truly think I need a little tweak here and there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But with all that being said, like be for real, be really honest. Would you ever travel abroad for surgery?
No. Hell
Never.
No. Never.
Okay.
I would never travel abroad for surgery. For cosmetic surgery. Okay, let me caveat this. If I had a life altering, or
God forbid, sure.
yeah, like something like that, and you can go into like a rabbit hole about clinical trials and FDA approvals and blah blah blah. But for, let's just say, a cosmetic treatment, would I ever travel abroad? Hell no. And it's because it's an elective surgery, and if I don't need it, why am I going to put myself through all of that just to be like, to save some money? I think, and of course, I'm fortunate enough that, like, if I needed to do one of these things, I think I could probably scrounge up the money to afford it in the US. But like, the idea of being in a foreign country where I know nobody, and God forbid something bad happens to me and I'm stuck there, sounds like my worst absolute nightmare.
Totally.
So,
that's fair.
yeah. If I don't need to do it, I'm not going to travel abroad for it. How about you?
So, if I'm being honest, I would do it.
Yeah.
And it's not to save money. It's just like a very specific situation in which I would, but like cosmetic procedure only, like I would go to Korea. Everybody knows that they are cutting edge. They are really pushing the boundaries. And do you save money if you go to Korea? Yes, you do. Right. But like, that's also because Americans make more money than people do in Korea and things like that. So technically it is cheaper, but it's still like, I truly believe that the doctors in Korea are just as good as the doctors in the United States. But no, I would go for a very long time. I would make sure that I could stay, for however long I needed to, and would not cut any corners in saving. And I also like know people in Korea that could be my translators and make sure like the nurses aren't talking shit about me, or like, like be able to communicate to my doctor to me, even though I hear that a lot of these doctors speak fluent English.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, guys, so that's a wrap on today's episode. And if you guys have ever had a crazy story of, cosmetic tourism, getting a cosmetic procedure abroad, please DM us at GlowJob Podcast on Instagram. And yeah, just share with us your best and worst experiences, any crazy stories you guys have.
And thank you so much for tuning in this week. We will see you next week with a brand new episode.
And be sure to like and subscribe and show us some love in the reviews. And don't forget to share this episode with a friend who needs a glow up.
And if you guys want to stay connected, we would love to connect on social media. You can follow us at GlowJob Podcast on Instagram. And you can follow Miss Sasa at Sasa No Skin, or myself, Julia, at SkinSives.
Thank you so much, you guys. And we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.